In the world of books, there's no doubt who's the cat's meow. Readers came from around the world to see him in life, and now his fame has outlived him. He's the subject of a new bestseller. Martha Teichner takes us on a book lover's journey to the nation's heartland.
There are a couple of things Spencer, Iowa tends to be known for. Number one, the Clay County Fair. 300,000 people attended every year. Number two, Dewey the cat. So it only seemed fitting that the first books arrived in time for the fair, and that Vicki Myron, the author, and by her own description, Dewey's mom, was there signing away. Would it surprise you to learn that the publisher paid a $1.25 million advance for the life story of a cat, now dead, who lived in a small-town library? And there's talk of a movie?
Hi, Dewey.
You would be correct in assuming that Dewey lived no ordinary life.
This is the outside of the book drop, and as you can see, it's high enough off the ground that Dewey did have to be stuffed in there.
It was 12 below zero in Spencer the morning of January 18th, 1988, when library director Vicki Myron was informed there was something alive in the book drop.
He was freezing cold, and he was hoarse from crying all night long.
And what kind of condition was he in?
He was very thin. His feet were frostbitten. We warmed him up, and he started purring, and I decided to keep him.
She called him Dewey, after Melville Dewey, the man who invented the Dewey Decimal System, but then held a Name the Cat contest.
There were 397 entries, and a lot of them were more than once.
Yeah.
You can see that there's a lot of sleepies and sneezies and snuggles and snowball.
Fleabag?
Yeah, I know. There were some who were not so kind, but also 50 people requested that we keep the name Dewey. So that's what we did.
He became Dewey Read More Books. For the next 19 years, the subject of much videotaping. Dewey charmed almost everybody who came to the library, from the moment Vicki Myron arrived at 7:30 every morning.
So by the time I got here, he was seriously waving.
Right, waving.
I'd be looking for a book, and Dewey would appear, and pretty soon a paw would come down and tap a book. And so, okay, Dewey, I'd take that book.
Library regular Peg Bear screamed the first time it happened.
If he was in the mood, he'd come over for a pet or two, and now and then he might jump in my lap.
Peg's husband, Mike.
Dewey loved boxes, so he might be sleeping in this box with his tail hanging out the side and everything, and you come walking in the front door and you see that, and you just, it's an upper.
1, 2, 3, blow.
There was a woman who complained that if the library had a cat, she could bring her cow in on a leash. She never did. It turns out Dewey wasn't the only library cat.
This is when he joined the Library Cat Society, and that's his actual membership card there.
Yes, there is actually a Library Cat Society with 125 members, but who, unlike Dewey, were not the objects of a publisher's bidding war.
The price kept going higher and higher, but I thought, we are going to get Dewey.
Jamie Rabb, executive vice president of Grand Central Publishing, admits she cried when she read the manuscript.
The cat is the star of the story, but it's really a story about community. It's a story about being lost and being found. It's about America at its best, I think.
A long 4.5 hours southwest of Minneapolis by car, Spencer, Iowa is surrounded by rich, beautiful farmland. It passed for the big city until 1931, when an accidental fireworks explosion destroyed just about the entire downtown.
Our downtown is the legacy of the fire of 1931, but it is also the legacy of the farm crisis of the 80s.
And that's where Dewey came in.
There's a lot of pride in Iowa, and especially small-town Iowa farmers. That was a very hard time for the men, especially.
The year before Dewey arrived, 63,000 people visited the Spencer Library. The year after, 100,000.
Dewey was kind of that bridge, that common touch. So it was an element that we could talk about instead of talking about their being jobless or not being able to pay the rent or having to sell the family farm. He had this amazing quality of knowing who needed him and when.
Especially Vicki Myron herself. She had left her alcoholic husband and was raising her daughter alone. She was running the library, working on a master's degree, and had serious health problems. Dewey saw her through it all.
The most unbelievable bond I've ever had, not only with a pet, but even with a human ever.
Today's a special birthday for one Spencer resident.
Another hard day of work for Dewey Read More books.
As time went on, through word of mouth and various news stories, Dewey got famous.
One of the international cat magazines picked it up, and that started his fame in Britain, to where he had his first British pen pal by 1992.
And this is what happened when Peg and Mike Baer went to New Zealand for a cruise.
And we were in the middle of the South Pacific, and we were trying to explain to people, our fellow passengers, where in Iowa we were from.
And they said, "Is that where Dewey the library cat is?" And bingo, yep, sure enough.
He was featured in a documentary about library cats, doing one of his favorite things, riding the book cart.
Dewey Read More Books.
A camera crew came all the way from Japan to film Dewey.
素敵な贈り物になったのです。
Dewey died November 29, 2006. He was 19. His obituary appeared in more than 270 newspapers. The library got thousands of cards and emails, but it didn't stop there.
We counted, and he was on 89,400 websites.
It just seems like it never stops with Dewey.
It never stops. I keep telling people Dewey's magic is still working.
With his story on sale in 17 countries and rapidly climbing the bestseller lists, that would be an understatement.